everyone, this is Rachel, and I'm here for another episode of Lift and Sketch with Christy and Rachel. This is our first time back after we took a little hiatus for Christy to have a baby and have a whole bunch of time with her. Also, she started a whole bunch of new projects, so it's super fun to be able to watch her channel now. She's got a bunch of collabs going on, so it's a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started on scrapbooking these 3 photos with the sketch from Creative Scrappers. Now, my photos are slightly bigger than the photos in her sketch, but we're going to go ahead and take care of that because you can always adapt sketches to work for what you have available, whether it's the products or whether it's the photos. So I find that as long as you are a person who can, and I'm pretty literal when it comes to scrapbooking from sketches, I tend to stick pretty close to the sketch. But I find that even for me, adapting the size of the photos you have or how many photos you have, it's not a hard thing to do. So I am using a kit I made up of summery themed things. This actually wasn't during summer. This was during April vacation. My nephew went down with his best friend to visit his best friend's grandparents. They go every year. This was actually outside of the Salvador Dali Museum. So it's going to be an interesting layout because what I'm doing is I'm actually going to have 2 layouts and they're going to be completely different, but I'm going to use the same papers. I'm not going to design them the same. It's not going to be a 2-page layout. They're telling 2 completely different stories. One's going to have mixed media. This one is not really going to have any mixed media besides like maybe some sprinkling of mist, but I did want to use the same papers because it's on the same day. It's actually at the same place, but it's telling 2 different stories. So I wanted to make them 2 different layouts. So we're going to go ahead and get you put on fast forward, and I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, so the first thing I'm struck by is this paper by Photoplay Paper, and I think it's called Sunspots. And I noticed that it already has this circular element, these sun-ish type things. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those out. And I stink at cutting out things, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to try to keep it so that it's round-ish, so I don't have any like sharp edges. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out 3 of these because what I'm basically going to do is build the paper clusters around each of my photos and then worry about my entire background paper. So I'm just trimming this one up because it did have that harsh edge that I noticed right off. And so that's one, it's called Summer something Sunspots. Yeah. I was paying a little too close attention to the wrong area of that paper as I was trying to read it. I then have this branding strip, and this is from Simple Stories, Sunshine and Happiness. And one side is an orange diagonal stripe, and the other side is yellow. And so I just trim those into thirds and use that as that horizontal little piece in each of the clusters. I grabbed this chevron multicolor piece, and this is from Cartabella Beach Days. And I'm just basically making a slightly larger circle to go behind my little sun circles for each of my little photo clusters. Now, that diagonal stripe piece, that's going to be one of the things I use to take the place of where the journaling is on the sketch. I'm going to ignore that part completely. I do occasionally do my journaling in strips. It's just not my normal thing to do. Now, I take this paper. This was a Scraptastic exclusive, and for those of you who are maybe newer to scrapbooking or are not aware, Scraptastic was a kit club I belonged to for a while. This paper was called Beach Bum, and they decided to go just to planner stuff. I don't know if they're still doing planner stuff, but when they ended scrapbooking, that's what they were going to move on to. And I cut them so they're all color blocking of pink and orange or pink and yellow or yellow and red, and just to bring some brightness but some solid color to each of the photo clusters. And I'm going to finish off my bigger photo with this plaid piece of paper, and this is by Fancy Pants from their Life is Beautiful collection. And so I'm just making a thin mat of each of my photos. I'm going to use that plaid one for the 4x4, and then I want to add a mat to each of my smaller photos, but I don't exactly have what I'm looking for in this kit. But I remember in the Amy Tangerine On a Whim line, there is a blue and green leaf pattern, and I'm like, that's going to be perfect. So it's the B side of that multicolored thing. So I'm once again just going to do a very thin border of this paper. And I'm going to do both of my photos in this same one. Now I get that one done, and I go to do this one, and I realize, oh, this is not even. When I print smaller photos like this, I make a collage of 2 3x4 photos on a 4x6, and then I just cut them in half. And occasionally I do not cut them straight or even, so I had to just trim that one up again. Once that is done, I have finished with what my photo clusters are going to look like as it comes to paper. I am going to add embellishments to them, but I'm done with them as it comes to paper. So I'm just kind of laying them out in the way the sketch has them, and now I've pulled out a piece of white cardstock, and I am going to sprinkle 5 different colors of mist in the 3 different areas where my photos are going to go. Now, you are going to see me be very liberal in my application of these colors, and for those of you who want to try misting but are afraid of the non-exactness of it, this is a really good way to start, because the majority of this is going to be covered up by my photos. Even though I'm putting a ton down, the majority of it is going to be covered by my photos. I started off with a colorings, which has no shimmer to it. That is Scarlet's Fever. I then go, the rest of my colors are all vibes, and I'm going to hit them with my heat gun in between, because I'm mixing colors with, like, I'm using a red, then a yellow, but then I'm moving to a blue. So because I'm not staying within the same color family, I don't want them to mix and end up with a gray or a brown. So I'm just giving them a quick shot with my heat gun before I go to the next one. So as I said, I started off with Scarlet's Fever, then I moved on to that yellow one that is called Sunset Strip. I follow that up with Don't Rain on My Parade, which is what they call their navy, and then my 4th color was Mango Tango, and I'm finally going to use Jenny B Blue, which is like a aqua turquoisey color, which is it's just a very, very pretty color. So I'm going to hit it once again with my heat gun, even though I really didn't need to, because I'm going to let this dry while I attach all my photo clusters together. I'm just hitting it from the back to help flatten it out. There is not really a ton of liquid on my papers right now, so it does flatten out quite nicely after it dries completely. All right, I am going to start getting all of these together, but first I'm going to realize I'm having an issue with my ATG. So if this is something that happens to you, if you use the generic ATG tape that you can get online, and sometimes even if you don't, sometimes even if you use the regular kind, the spools get a little wonky, and one thing you can do to make that work is take some washi tape and just kind of roll it up. You want it like the width of a pencil eraser, but squishable, so you can fit it right behind that little black tab part that holds the spool in place. Once you do that, I've done that with occasionally when I am having a problem with a spool. I haven't had a problem with it since then, and I've done a couple layouts since I did that for this particular one, and I've had no problems with it. Now I'm just putting together my clusters. Now I'm changing my mind about where certain things are going to go. Like I shortened that orange one. I decided to make the pink and yellow piece go horizontally rather than vertically. Here I'm going to start putting that down and realize I don't like where those circular pieces are. So I'm going to put down where the glue is and move both actually pieces over to be so it's more pleasing to my eye. I'm going to finish up the cluster on my main photo with the yellow banner piece down on the bottom right hand side, and then move on to my final cluster. And I'm going to go ahead and just play around with this back color block piece because I'm not quite sure where I want it, and like I know where it is in the sketch, but it's not working for me in relation to where the banner pieces are and where the color blocking pieces are with that upper photo. So I decided to move it down to the bottom rather than have it on the top like it is in the sketch. So I go ahead and get my photos laid down where they are according to the sketch, and I actually like the way it looks, so I'm going to start pulling out things to embellish, and these are all things I had in the kit. They are some flair, some bits and pieces from Elle Studio, part of a cut-apart sheet from Elle Studio, and then these cardstock stickers. These are from Webster Pages. These are actually something I picked up recently. They were just sitting on my desk, and I was like, oh, these would go really nice. Same thing goes with these stickers from Heidi Swapp. They're just the random ones you can get at Joann's or Michael's. They don't belong with a specific line. But I thought that the gold would go nice with the nice sunny layout of outdoor photos that I picked to go with this sketch. And I pull out that little paper clip. If you know what I'm talking about, I'm not repeating paper. It's a clip, but it's made out of paper. That is from Elle Studio. And then I have that flare, and I think that's a really old Dear Lizzie, like something from an older Dear Lizzie collection. It was just in with my flare, and I thought the colors went nicely. I pull out that Today tag, and that is from Elle Studio, and that pineapple sticker, and that is from the Webster's Pages, and like I said, I picked that up at Joann's recently. Now I'm also adding a couple of these label stickers, and they have just things like saying, you know, wander and learn, and, you know, love life, and just like pretty generic sayings. I'm using that in place of the horizontal pieces along with the branding strip that originally in the sketch is meant for the journaling. As I said, am using just the stickers and the branding strips because I just wasn't going to do my journaling in strips for this particular layout. Now I start to pull these gold stickers to be my title, and I start with the word adventure. And Zancy has decided she's bored with us, so she's leaving, and she's letting you know she's leaving. I'm going to at first add some more of these gold words saying life is adventure, and it's fine. It fits the tone of this layout. It would have worked perfectly well, but I'm totally honest, it's bothering me. I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead and move on and start using some more of those gold stickers in each of my areas. And then I remember I had this die cut also from Elle Studio, the Remember the Moments, so I go ahead and I add that as well. So I go over to the rest of my kit, and I'm like, oh yeah, there are more alphas over here. So I pull up the life, and I pull up the word is, and instead I grab these wood grain little tile stickers, and I'm going to use those as well as the other much larger font, and I'm going to bring back the word life. Instead, my title is going to be Make Life an Adventure. So I thought, for some reason, that resonated better with me, and using the multiple fonts also helps with the look I'm going for this particular layout. The other one wasn't wrong, it just wasn't what I was looking for at the time. So I take a look at these Beach Day chipboard stickers, but as I said, this is not really a beach layout, and it's not really a summer layout, so none of those really worked for this particular story. I'm going to go ahead and start drawing some lines for my journaling, and as I mentioned when talking before we started the layout, these are photos from outside the Salvador Dali Museum that my nephew and his best friend went to while they were on vacation. And I'm just talking about how, yes, the museum was wonderful and they had a lot of fun inside, but it was really the outdoor items that captured their fancy, that, you know, made them take photographs, that, you know, they said they actually spent quite a maybe even equal time inside the museum as they spent wandering around outside the museum in just the gorgeous grounds they have around there. I'm going to finish up this layout by dropping some pretty large drops of Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine, and now I'm looking for some tissue to soak a bit of that up because I don't want the oily residue circle. You don't want that, but someone had taken my tissues, so I had to go hunt them down. So I come back and I dab that up, and that is going to finish off my layout today. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Please, please, please go over and check out Christy's take on this sketch. Hers is always so much different than mine. I always find it hilarious that it's from the same sketch, and it just goes to show you how much, even if you use a sketch, no one's is going to end up looking the exact same as anyone else's. And it's just a great starting point if you're having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out what you want to do. Thanks again for joining me. If you could flick me a thumbs up, that would be super awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Bye!